External validity, the extent to which the findings of a study can be generalized to other situations, people, etc. Internal validity, degree to which an experiment is conducted effectively or evaluates the effects of the independent variable phenomenon of interest and not confounding variables. Instrumentation, a change that occurred in how the dependent variable was recorded, threatens internal validity. Maturation, developmental processes within the participants during the course of the study that may account for changes in the dependent variable. These developmental processes may be permanent or temporary. Control, demonstration of a functional relation through the manipulation of an independent variable while observing changes in the dependent variable. Trend, the slope and direction of the data on a best fit line within the phase. Description, quantifiable and observable events that are compared with known facts to form hypotheses. Semi-logarithmic charts, a two-dimensional graph with the logarithmic scaled y-axis so that equal distances on the vertical axis represent changes in behavior that are of equal portion. Two events shown to covary, prediction. Two events shown to covary over repeated observations allows for estimations to be made about the future occurrence of those events. Line graph uses a 2D area that's formed by the intersection of two perpendicular lines. Any point on the plane represents a specific relation between the two dimensions represented by the perpendicular lines. Level, how much a behavior occurred, categorized as low, medium, or high based on value displayed on the y-axis. Adaptation, changes in data that result from the novel environmental conditions associated with the onset of data collection. Rate, the number of responses per unit of time or frequency divided by unit of time. Frequency, how many times a behavior occurs. Trials of criterion, represents the number of trials or opportunities required for some performance criterion to be met. Duration, how long a behavior occurs. Confounding variables, a variable that impacts the dependent variable but is not the phenomenon of interest. Reliability, degree to which an assessment tool produces consistent measurements. The variable that independent variable, the variable that's manipulated by the experimenter in order to determine if changes in the dependent variable will occur. Correlational research, non-experimental research that identifies relationships between variables. Discontinuous measurement, estimate of the occurrence of behavior within a specific time period. Partial interval recording, time sampling procedure, record occurrence of target behavior occurs at and point during the interval. Validity, degree to which an assessment measures what's supposed to the phenomenon of interest. Whole interval recording, time sampling procedure, record occurrence of target behavior occurs for the entire duration of the interval. Research, systematic investigation and manipulation of variables to identify associations and understand process. Latency, the time between the onset of some environmental event and the target response. Inter-response time, time elapsed from the end of the previous response and the beginning of the next response. Momentary time sampling procedure, record behavior if it occurs at the moment the interval ends. PLA check, variation of momentary time sampling to record the behavior of a group. Count the number of people engaging in behavior at the moment the interval ends. Comparison research question that evaluates which intervention is more effective. Component analysis, research question that analyzes of two or more independent variables that make up a treatment package. Continuous measurement, captures all occurrences of the behavior of interest during an observation. Dependent variable, the phenomenon of interest, aka outcome variable between group research. Types of research in which large groups of individuals are assigned to one or two or more study conditions and differences are statistically analyzed. Single case research design, a quantitative experimental approach in which participants serve as their own control, uses visual analysis of data. Parametric research question, a research question that evaluates the effectiveness of an independent variable at different levels or amounts. Permanent products, lasting products of the behavior of interest may be natural or contrived. Demonstration research question that evaluates whether a particular intervention works or the impact of an intervention. Treatment fidelity, the extent to which intervention conditions are implemented as designed. Equal interval graph, equal distances on the axis represent equal absolute amounts of the variable plotted on the axis. Cumulative record, a graph in which the cumulative number of responses is represented on the vertical axis with the steeper slope being indicative of a higher response rate. Baseline data, a measurement of the behavior taken before interventions are started. Clinical significance, improved fixing as determined by measured improvement in observable behaviors to an amount that's meaningful. Percentage of non-overlapping data points, the percent of data points during the intervention phase that don't overlap with the baseline phase indicating a change in behavior due to the intervention. A higher P&D suggests a stronger effect. Carryover effects, the extent to which a prior condition may impact the dependent variable within the current condition. Sequence effects, the extent to which the order of the conditions may impact the dependent variable. Multiple baseline design, SCRD with sequential intro of intervention across multiple behavior settings or individuals, demonstrate the effect of the intervention by comparing baseline and intervention phases. History, some extraneous event that occurred during the study and impacted the dependent variable. Changing criterion design, SCRD, where the criterion for reinforcement or behavior change is gradually altered over time. Multiple probe design, type of SRCD that involves intermittent data collection at specific points in time to assess whether the behavior change is occurring without continuous monitoring, allowing for more flexible and resourceful, efficient analysis. Multi-element design, rapid alternations of interventions within a participant group that allows for the comparison of the interventions to blank one another, aka alternating treatment designs. Interesting. Cyclical variability, a type of instability in the data that represents a repeated pattern of data variability across time. Immediacy of effect, magnitude of change in level between the level of a phase and the beginning of another. Basic effect, demonstrated when the predicted change in the dependent variable occurs when the independent variable is manipulated by the researcher. Overlap, amount of data from one phase that overlaps or occurs within the range around the best fit line of the data from another phase. Less overlap is representative of a stronger effect. Withdrawal design, type of SCRD with repeated intro and removal of the independent variable within a participant and target behavior. Functional relation, a relationship that exists when the independent variable causes changes in the dependent variable, evidence of experimental control. Baseline logic, the basis for experimental reasoning used within ABA, which includes prediction, verification, and replication. Case study, a non-experimental design that includes two phases, A and B.